Oh, what a hog.
Alright, so we're going to start cutting this deer. First thing I'm going to do is just clean up a little bit of the stuff on the outside here. Just kind of do that. It's got stuff all over the place. Alright, and then got rid of that stuff, so we'll start on the front shoulder. And might have to go over here a little bit. The key on these front shoulders is to not go too deep into those chops, those back straps. But you get the front shoulder cut off. So, alright, you can either pause it or come over and go over. Okay, so then you gotta start cleaning this up. Get rid of this hairy stuff. I went pretty deep on that front shoulder, as you saw. I raked against these ribs, pulled most of that rib stuff off of there. So I'm just gonna clean that little piece off. A little bit of this fat. Now I'm just gonna break this down. I'm gonna cut this deer mostly into stew meat. I'll break everything down first on camera here, and just so everybody can see it. Now there's a certain pattern I like to follow after I get this cleaned up. Piece of hair. Just got to take all that outside stuff off. I didn't let this deer hang very long. You really don't got to let your wild game hang. It's not going to make that big of a difference when you go to cut it. Got the vast majority of all this fat and hair and dirty stuff off of this thing. It's got to constantly be watching for hairs as you're cutting. Doesn't matter what piece you're cutting on. Alright, so now we're going to start breaking this thing down. This is the shoulder blade here. You can see your flat iron on top and one of your mock tenders right here. I always take my knife, come straight in, shoulder, not your shoulder blade joints right there. Come straight in here. There's a bone right here. All the way down against that bone. And you're just going to come in, work that free, pull it off. So flip it over. This is the inside of the shoulder. There's a bone running up in here, knuckle right there. Cut that. Shoulder joint should be right there. You get that started down. Pull that off the inside. Now this is a very important part. You come to the end of that, knife comes around. Roll that over. Down the inside of that same bone that you came down earlier. Just the other side. Grab the shoulder. Pull the blade out. See I'm staying real close to that bone. And a little chunk of meat there. Cut that flat iron off. Come down the inside. You can see my knife's pretty flexible. I just always keep it along that bone. Okay, so when you get this cut open, if you do it right, there should be a little bit of a tendon. That. And if you're worried about your home grinders not being able to handle that stuff, especially on elk, that tendon right there is a little bit heavier. Pull that out. This thing will break down into seams, really. And then you're going to go stew meat it or whatever you're going to do. You can go ahead and peel from here to however clean you want it to be. I'm going to just do this shank really quick. So it kind of messes up skinning it a little bit, but I would start here, come up, staying against the bone. And there's your front quarter of a deer leg, deboned. And for these fronts, I always just kind of really, you can see there ain't much left there. Mostly garbage and tendons anyway. So there's front quarter. We'll move on to tenderloins, back straps next. Okay, so I've cut the other shoulder off. I've deboned that and cut it into chunks. It's just the same process as the last one, so if you need to watch it twice, then have at her. So the next thing we're going to do here is I'm going to knock these stomach flaps off the side. And they're relatively clean, so I think I'll pick through them real quick. So I just bring that not quite all the way to the spine. Kind of got it on the side there. And then so I've got these cut out. I'll put those off to the side. And I'm gonna get in here and I'm gonna cut these tenderloins out. If you can see, I like to come to the bottom, and I can come in against that spine and roll that knife out. There we go. way up in there. You're gonna be all right coming against them hips. Get that tenderloin all the way out. Why don't you watch me do it on this other side? Knife's going in to the bone and turning against the bone. These things pretty much come out on their own. Alright, make sure the lines up. I've cut those stomach flaps. Basically just clean those off as best you can if you want to keep them. I don't think you really need to, but I did. So the next thing I'm going to do is cut these back straps off. This one's got quite a bit of fat and tough to seat lines and stuff on it. So this is kind of where your hips come in, right? So that's going to be where your back strap stops on the top end. You want to stay as close to that spine as you can. Other side. Okay, pull the back strap off here. Coming in straight against that. Those little rib bones in there. There we go. Once you get these things to break away, they really start to come. See this starting to pull away. So when you get to the neck, I shot her in the neck here. Just cut in this neck and we'll peel a lot of that off. Most of that's been shot through. You can see that that's mostly going to be damaged. So one of the things that I can suggest is that you stay as far away from that stuff as you think is necessary, and then a little further. Those chunks of lead and copper can really travel once they hit bone and they hit flesh and stuff like that. It just kind of explodes everywhere. So it'll save your grinder, save your teeth. So just kind of keep that in mind. And then this other side is just going to be the same process. I'm going to do the same thing once I get these both knocked off. We will go to clean it, and we'll talk a little bit more about back straps. Alright, so we have our back strap. A lot of times when you pull it off, you'll get that big tendon in there. That's usually the first thing I pull out, that large tendon. Pull it out so you can see what I'm talking about. There's a bunch of bloodshot and shot up stuff. So it's that big, yellow, heavy tendon. You don't want to eat that. Stay away from that bloodshot stuff. So what I do, start cleaning this up. If I just start filleting it, kind of like you do with a fish. I'm gonna get that opened up. Let's see, it's pretty close to that top there. Pull that edge piece off. And that's pretty much cleaned off there. You can come around and take a little bit of this off. I'll pull this. Most of it just kind of breaks apart by hand. A lot of this stuff you can kind of peel off by hand. Cut that into chunks. Square it up. Cut the other chunks here. There you go. There's your tendon or your back strap. You can pull off this stuff here. As much silver skin as you want to clean it up according to how you clean your stuff up here. And so now you can either, I'm just going to take this, I'm going to butterfly this into steaks. You can cut it into roasts. However you want to cut it, I just... Okay, so I've got the one leg hanging off of this hook here. I'm going to start breaking down the back end of this deer. I do the sirloin tips a little bit different than some people might. So your sirloin tips in the front here. You can see it sitting there on the round. Cut it like that. Cut it like this. Stay in on that bone. My knife angled in on the bone. If you look in there, you can see that bone showing through. So there's one. And I will do those sirloin tips up here in a second. Okay, so come on over here. Now, so you cut this sirloin tip off, so there's going to be one side this is going to be loose. There, that is peeled. Clean it up however you feel you need to do it. I'll do that one more time since I got two. So that is the knee end. This is the end that would be facing down here towards the sirloin. Peeled. Still a couple pieces of meat. Cut them off. That was pretty shot. Peel a little piece out. Like that. Go in there. Just a little piece off the edge. Good. And so you can peel apart these sirloin tips for jerky, cut them in steaks, roasts. Make good roasts. Steaks are fine. If you're going to do whole muscle jerky, you need to peel the outside. And there's some, you can see some lines in here. You need to peel all that stuff off. Peel that off. Just as a heads up. Or you can Okay, so we're going to cut this hind quarter off here. You can see this is where we split the hips when we were field dressing it. So you just want to follow that bone. You can see that ball joint in there. I always miss this. There it is. There's a little tendon in there you got to clip. You got that thing hit. So that hip runs down like this. Rounds out. When you come around the back side of this leg, it's going to be kind of tough to see they're situated. There's a little piece of bone right there. Come down around that, you can see a line on the back side of this deer. Let's hit the line of those hips. Bring the knife against those hips. Like that. And that weight will more or less pull that leg right off for you. Okay, so I mean, all your hindquarters and stuff, if you break them down this way, are going to be the same. If it's an elk, it's a deer, it's an antelope, it's whatever. Okay, this is your sirloin. So you want to cut that off of your round. On elk, this makes fantastic steaks. In my opinion, they are my favorite. They are the best ones. And then we got our round here, and I'm going to clean up this round, and then we'll get to pulling it off the bone and breaking it down and talking a little bit about the steaks and your choices and options that you have. Okay, so we're going to take this off the bone. I always start with my knife in here against that bone. See how there's a little line? It'll fall right there. Always keep that knife against the bone until you get down to the knee. Keeping the knife against the bone, cutting through all those tendons and stuff. Watching for hair as I go here. Go. So that round's off. I'm going to do the shank really fast. It's pretty similar to the front. Similar to everything else, staying against the bone. Coming up, taking that off. Getting all that off of there. Chunks. And this back is similar to the front. Take that off. Big tendons out. Just fillet underneath. Get everything cleaned up. Make sure there's no hair. Okay, so you have a couple options when it comes to this round, and since I'm just cutting it into little pieces for stew meat type stuff, I will break this down. So you can take this, and this would be the inside portion. So if you look at the deer here, so that is this portion inside. You can take this. There's usually a cap all the way across. That kind of messed it up there. Cut across here. You can cut straight down. And that'll pretty much clean off all your like big heavy tendons and stuff like that, and that gets the vast majority of that stuff off. I'm going to save a little bit of that. Cut it into pieces. That's going to go in there, my grind and stuff. So then every time I go and I steak, run this big knife here, it's got a nice stiff back, it's long and it's easier to cut. Then you can cut these into steaks. Square everything up. I always square off the end of all my rounds every time I go to square it or to steak it, even if I have them together or apart. So that would be the squared up chunk. I'm just gonna cut this into pieces real quick. Okay, so if you want to break this round down, you can see there's a seam here. You can come in from the back. You can come in from the front. It doesn't really matter. You just got to get this thing pulled apart. We'll try to keep them individual pieces. So this would be the back side of that. Shank. always cut these in half, make sure there's no cysts or anything in them. That's good to go to grind. So get your rounds broke apart. Again, this is that inside piece we were talking about, that top, and this is your bottom. On elk, everything's obviously exaggerated on elk and buffalo and deer and beef. It doesn't matter what it is. So then you always have this gland in here. It's usually always got a little bit of fat. Every animal's different. So you just want to kind of come in, pull that fat out. There's a little gland in there. I don't know, I can't find it. So then you can stake these. This is an eye of a round. This is also an eye over here on this other round. So you can stake these, do whatever you want with them. Clean it up more, clean it up less, however you want to process your game. This is your sirloin. This one's got a really nice cap on it, so when I clean these, I just like to take this and just follow that nice heavy fat layer down. Yeah, most of this stuff cleaning, it's like cleaning a fish. That's basically it there. There isn't much meat there. So when you break these down, you're trying to get to, there's a center piece of meat in here, and I always find it kind of helpful to take these little strips of fat off. Every one of them's got it. Some are heavier than others, obviously. There's always a little pocket of fat. So when you look at the outside, there's a piece there that comes off. You can just stick your finger underneath of it. Take that little piece of fat off. And then this piece is good to do whatever you want. You can clean it up, make jerky, just like your rounds. You can steak it, you can do whatever you want to do with it. I'm just going to cut that up. So the piece you're aiming for is this middle piece here. So this is what you would cut into steaks. Square this off, and then it's a little bit tougher end, and steak this end. Steak this way. Once you start getting into this, they're going to start getting a little bit of a heavier tendon and stuff in there. So they're going to have a couple of tough bites. So that's basically all I'm going to talk on. I have one leg left to do on this deer. Same process as this one. This is a little bit different. Your leverage is a little different when you grab these. Just grab inside here and cut in there to take this leg off, and you use your arm to pull to separate that leg from the hips. So this has been Brady with Southwest Montana Shed Hunters. I hope this was informational, and I hope it helps you break down and take better care of your wild game. Good luck out there.